China's space program, we should really see it as a kind of framework that the Chinese government presents to government institutes, scientists, and commercial companies that were already working on space, but that gives them now a framework so that they know this is what the Chinese government wants. And it's good to know what the wishes are, because then you also know this is where the subsidies will go to, or other preferences.
Because why have a space program at all? Why does China have a space program?
In the beginning it was different from now. Like in the 90s they had a space program because they wanted to become independent from mainly US space services, like for example GPS. But nowadays they have higher ambitions and they want to become a global leader in space.
What are China's ambitions?
They want to be the global leader in space in 2040 and 5. That's their ambition.
Okay, and how do they hope to achieve those ambitions?
It's actually quite similar to the US and partially made possible by inventions from Elon Musk and other commercial parties in the US. They made satellites smaller and they made reusable rockets, and that made launches so much cheaper that commercial parties could also join. And that's what we see in all countries and also in China. So it's basically a joint effort between state institutes and commercial parties. Europe is lagging behind in this race, so it's a race between China and the US. China wants to become the new global leader and the US wants to keep its dominance. For Europe, it means that they are part of this race. They wanted to cooperate with China first when China announced an international lunar research base. The US didn't want them to cooperate, so they kind of forced them to stop this cooperation. And Europe is completely dependent on working together with the US, so they are a bit squeezed between the US and China in this space race.
Between a rock and a hard place, right?
Yeah.
I see. And ordinary citizens in Europe, will they notice anything of this China's quest for, let's say, dominance in space, if you want to phrase it like that or frame it like that?
If everything goes well, ideally, no, we wouldn't notice too much, I guess, during our lives. Part of the space race is that more and more satellites are launched because it's cheaper to launch these satellites, but we see congestion in space, and it's getting so congested that the risk for collisions are getting...
Collisions.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
The risk for collisions is getting bigger and bigger, and what could happen is that at some point it's so full in space that the one satellite touches another satellite, it breaks down in pieces, these pieces touch another satellite, and the one after the other satellite will break down. We'll have lots of space debris, and at some point we can't even use space anymore. And our society is highly dependent on space systems.
Looking at China's space program, are there any implications for Europe and Europe's space program?
Yes and no. On the one hand, Europe is lagging behind in the space race. It's mainly a space race between China and the US. However, because this space race is so tense, the US is also deciding whether or not Europe can cooperate with China or other parties, like India, for example, or not. So we are restricted with whom we cooperate. And this space race has also implications, can have terrible implications for the use of outer space, because more and more satellites are being launched because it is cheaper, because they have been made smaller. But that means that there is a high risk for congestion in space, and that means that there is a high risk that one satellite can collide in another satellite, the satellite breaks apart, the pieces of this satellite can reach other satellites, and the one after the other satellite breaks down. We can end up with a huge cloud of space debris in the orbits around Earth. And that means that we can't make use of the space services anymore. And our modern society is highly dependent on space services.